This is some of the most disturbing stuff that happened in the Poppy Playtime community, and as the video progresses, the cases will just keep getting worse. Indie developer Mob Entertainment released Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 on the gaming platform Steam on October 12, 2021. At the time, mascot horror games whose stories built around twisted versions of childhood icons were rising in popularity after the massive success of Five Nights at Freddy's. Following that trend, Poppy Playtime became an instant hit, especially with YouTubers streaming their Let's Plays of the game. Poppy Playtime was set in an abandoned toy factory known as Playtime Co., giving the game a chance to introduce numerous colorful toy characters. And with the game getting thousands of positive reviews within its first month, Mob Entertainment announced a line of Poppy Playtime NFTs on Twitter in December 2021, not knowing that this decision would change the game's image forever. An NFT, in case you didn't know, is a unique digital product that was treated like a collector's item that can't be copied. Poppy Playtime's NFT featured popular toy characters from the game, like Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy, but other than that, each NFT included clips that were part of a bigger puzzle about the game's lore. Mob Entertainment also promised that players who collected all 6 NFTs would be rewarded with a 7th one that completed the puzzle. At first, this sounded like a good bonus for dedicated fans. However, each NFT cost $14.99, so collecting all of them, and thus completing the puzzle, would cost the players a total of $89.94. That's nearly an extra $100 for players to unlock new lore about a game they already paid anywhere between $9.99 to $19.99 per chapter for. On top of that, studies have shown that creating and trading NFTs were bad for the environment. This is because every NFT transaction requires a ton of computing power, which burns through electricity and adds to air pollution. A Science Direct research paper even found that carbon emissions from NFT transactions in October 2021 alone could be linked to the deaths of 18 people. So with the NFTs hiding the game's story behind a paywall while being bad for the environment, players were quick to criticize Mob Entertainment for this decision, with one Redditor saying, "Them doing NFTs at all is just the devs directly showing that they're just in this purely for the money, and they'll sacrifice any sort of morals or integrity for a quick buck of their fanbase they've gotten recently." Players also called for refunding the game and leaving a negative review. Meanwhile, Mob Entertainment risked getting banned on Steam, but it was actually against the rules to sell NFTs to players. And with Steam being the most widely used gaming platform for PC games, getting Poppy Playtime removed there would greatly impact their sales. And yet, Mob Entertainment didn't back down on the NFT sales, causing their game to be review bombed, and soon 7,000 of the total 30,000 reviews on the game were negative. Finally, on March 3rd, 2021, 5 months after the announcement, the company's CEO, Zach Belanger, said, "Regarding the Poppy Playtime NFTs, I wanted to say that we regret making them. We regret the way that we tied lore to the NFTs themselves, and above all, that we're sorry. In regards to the hiding Poppy Playtime lore behind NFTs as a paywall, that was not our intention whatsoever. We thought about this as nothing but a bonus or addition for our fans who did buy the NFTs. We would never want to do anything to hurt our relationship with our fans in any way, and we will use this as a learning experience to put our best foot forward. We do not have any plans to move forward with another NFT collection. Regarding the existing collection, we unfortunately already signed a legally binding contract with other companies, and we're unable to remove them at this time. That being said, we've decided to donate all of the money we made off of our NFTs to the Clean Air Task Force, which is an organization that seeks to decrease air pollution and advocate for the use of clean energy." Now, while Mob Entertainment intended to give bonus lore in exchange for buying the NFTs, the next game developer promised Poppy Playtime content, but left everyone empty-handed.
Mob Entertainment, the founders of horror game Poppy Playtime, just filed a lawsuit against Google. But the big question is, why?
Besides being under the mascot horror genre, Poppy Playtime was also an episodic game. This meant that the games were released like a TV episode, with each short chapter only telling a portion of the story. In January 2024, Poppy Playtime released Chapter 3, with the 4th installment set to be released a year later. And yet, just 9 months later, on October 5th, 2024, fans who searched the game found both Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 available to download for free in the Google Play Store, which is the app store meant for Google devices. And this was 3 months before the announced official release of Chapter 4. Now, the Google Play Store page for the games had credited a company named Daigo Game 2020 as the creator, not Mob Entertainment. But the page contained clips and images from the official game, convincing players to download the app in hopes of playing Poppy Playtime on their mobile devices. However, upon downloading it, the app prompted players to make in-game purchases to unlock the game, along with something they called Guide Wuggy Playtime Mod, which sounded like it could be a helpful guide or a game modification, but was never actually explained. Now, these in-game purchases cost gamers between $30 and $95, which is a much higher price compared to the game's pricing on Steam, where Chapter 3 is available for only $14.99. and Chapter 4 was supposed to be $19.99. To make matters worse, once players actually paid, they were directed to a blank webpage, and given that Poppy Playtime was rated for ages 8 and above by the developers, many children also played the game, and they could easily mistake the Daigo game version as the real thing and pay the overpriced guide mod. Now Mob Entertainment soon discovered this, and so on October 31st, 2024, just 16 days after the fake copies appeared, they formally requested that Google take down the Daigo game apps from their store page, insisting that they were unauthorized copies of their property. However, Google didn't act immediately to remove the apps, leading to more players getting tricked. Then on November 13th, just 2 weeks after Mob Entertainment's request, the official mobile version of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 was released, priced at just $4.99, less than a quarter of the cheapest in-game purchases from the fake game. Finally, Google then removed the Poppy Playtime copies from the Play Store on December 9th, 2024, over a month after Mob Entertainment filed their request. But that wasn't the end of it. Just 4 days later, on December 13th, Daigo Games Chapter 3 was not only back on the Google Play Store, but it was also amongst the top search results when players searched for Poppy Playtime. The fake Chapter 4 was also back by December 30th. Given how Google failed to ban these fake Poppy Playtime games, Mob Entertainment decided to take a more drastic approach. On January 15, 2025, Mob Entertainment filed a lawsuit against Google and Daigo Game 2020, and by that point, the fake Chapter 3 was already downloaded over 1 million times, and Chapter 4 gained over 10,000 downloads. So in the lawsuit, Mob Entertainment detailed how Daigo Game wasn't the only one profiting over their copyrighted material. Google was getting a cut too, with in-game purchases returning 15% to 30% of the profits back to the platform. Now, as of making this video, no further updates about the lawsuit have been released. Neither Google nor Daigo Game has made a public statement about it, though the fake Poppy Playtime apps have now been removed from the App Store permanently. Now, while these fake mobile games cheated players out of their money, the next line of Poppy Playtime merchandise was so dangerous that the UK government banned them.
You know, with all those good knockoffs, there's always a little bit of creepy, silly, and just really bad knockoffs that we question our sanity after looking at them.
With the game being set in an abandoned toy factory, it came as no surprise when Mob Entertainment officially announced the first set of Poppy Playtime toy merchandise in March 2022, featuring the villain of Chapter 1, Huggy Wuggy. Fans were excited to get their hands on the toys, while others claimed that they already had the toys even though they just started selling them on that day. This was because the popular franchise was already a target of a worldwide crime within weeks of the release of their first game. By November 2021, unlicensed Huggy Wuggy toys were already on the market. As the Poppy Playtime game gained popularity amongst kids, sellers from around the world sold these bootleg toys both online and in street corners, providing thousands of younger fans access to cheap Huggy Wuggy plushies. Now, while bootleg toys are a common problem for anything popular, the unlicensed Poppy Playtime merchandise was different, since they were considered dangerous for kids. According to a UK government safety report from May 2022, the bootleg Huggy Wuggy plush toys had serious risk of choking due to poor stitching. They claimed that the poor stitching of the toys made them easier to tear, allowing kids to take out the filling material inside, which can be a dangerous choking hazard. Because of this, the UK banned the toys from entering the country, while Amazon was ordered to remove the products from their platform. But this still didn't stop the bootleg toys from entering the market. 5 months later, in October 2022, England's largest traveling fun fair called the Hull Fair was caught selling the bootleg Huggy Wuggy plushies. This led to the confiscation of 400 plushies of Huggy Wuggy and another Poppy Playtime character, Baby Longlegs. And during the investigation, authorities found that the poor stitching of the plushies wasn't the only thing that placed the children who were buying them at risk. According to Chris Wilson, the trading standards officer at Hull City Council, the Baby Longlegs version of the toy is constructed with sharp wire, which could pierce the skin. The toys weren't only a choking hazard anymore, they could also accidentally stab the fans who played with them. So Chris urged parents who'd already bought the toys before the confiscation to ensure this removed from their children immediately and contact citizens' advice in the first instance. But the troubles weren't over just yet, because just a month later, Turkey's Ministry of Commerce said that a horror game character that squeezed people dangerously tight should not be advertised as a children's toy. And with the game's rising popularity towards grade school fans, Turkish experts were also concerned with the psychological effects these characters had on children. Psychologist Ramazan Saykin Şimşek explained, "Since the schools opened, there has been an increase in throat-squeezing behavior among children. We receive complaints from dozens of educators and parents every day." And specialist clinical psychologist Aybüke Akdeniz also added that since the game's release, we've received a growing number of child patients who've developed psychotic disorders. Now, to prove this, she recounted how a pregnant woman, whose son was a fan of the game, had told her, "Mom, you know, I'm going to choke my brother after he's born, because Huggy Wuggy is doing that." There were also reports of children getting nightmares and bedwetting out of fear of Huggy Wuggy, so IBK and other concerned parents pushed to get the Poppy Playtime toys banned in Turkey, just like what the UK had already done. And although the UK only banned the unlicensed Poppy Playtime merchandise, the Turkish ministry officially banned all Huggy Wuggy toys in their country in November 2022, explaining, "As a result of the evaluation made by the experts of our ministry, it was not deemed appropriate to buy the said toy for children." And while Huggy Wuggy couldn't be seen in Turkish stores, not all official Poppy Playtime merchandise is banned from the country. And after 3 years of the bootleg toys still invading the marketplace, Mob Entertainment filed a lawsuit against a network of online sellers on May 14, 2025. The company also filed a temporary restraining order against sellers of the counterfeit merchandise, including sellers on Amazon, TikTok, Temu, DHgate, Etsy, Walmart, Alibaba, AliExpress, eBay, and others. So far, there's no public update on this lawsuit. Meanwhile, bootleg toys weren't the only Poppy Playtime inspired product that placed its younger audience at risk. This next fan-made content had schools warning parents to keep their children away from the internet.
It is unsettling, Steve and Jeanette, and it's called, innocently enough, the Huggy Wuggy game. And while it may sound innocent, like I said, it could actually be really traumatic for some children.
Like with every successful franchise, Poppy Playtime inspired plenty of fan content online. But what people didn't expect was that one fan's creativity would trigger an international panic. Within months of the game's release, fan-made songs dedicated to Huggy Wuggy, such as Give Me a Hug by Chewy Cat that gained over 15 million views, began popping up on YouTube and TikTok. One of them was a song titled Free Hugs by YouTube musician Troy Heart Ninja, whose real name was Igor Gordienko. The song had a playful, upbeat tune that was paired with unsettling lyrics, which suggested how Huggy Wuggy wanted to give people a dangerously tight hug. The song included lyrics like, "Cause I could just hug you here, forever, forever, till you breathe your last breath, with a smile and open arms, and my teeth sharp and ready." The song was uploaded to YouTube on November 18, 2021, just over a month after the game's release, and within weeks the video received over 2 million views. And soon the fan-made song itself inspired more content on TikTok, attracting millions of viewers globally. But this popularity came with a cost.
Huggy Wuggy. The name sounds innocent enough.
But the popular character from an online video game's raising concerns among parents, especially parents of young children.
These first graders say other kids are pretending to be Huggy Wuggy on the playground, imitating the YouTube videos.
So some people are playing it and they think it's fun. Does everybody think it's fun?
No, because people think, some people think it's also scary too.
Sean Irving says her 8-year-old son was traumatized after seeing a video of Huggy Wuggy on YouTube. The tall, lanky blue character with razor-sharp teeth is the main villain in a horror computer game called Poppy Playtime.
Starting in January 2022, just over a month after Free Hugs was uploaded, news headlines issued warnings about how fan-made Huggy Wuggy videos were becoming dangerous to younger viewers. These came after reports that children were pretending to be Huggy Wuggy and giving their friends tight hugs while singing the lyrics from the Free Hug song started appearing. Schools began issuing warnings to parents, with one letter from the St. Barnabas Primary Academy in England saying that Huggy Wuggy is a teddy bear with razor-sharp teeth that sings worrying songs about hugging and killing. On one of the videos, the bear asked the viewer to take the last breath. It is a very deceiving character, as hugs should be seen as something kind and loving. The issue became so widespread that police Endorse in England also began raising awareness. They warned parents that even Year 1 students, which is equivalent to kindergartners in the USA, had been exposed to the disturbing Huggy Wuggy videos. What was worse was that the internet trend was being compared to the killer clown craze from 6 years ago. Basically, back in August 2016, pictures of a man dressed like a creepy clown went viral all over social media. This started a trend where people dressed like clowns and roamed the public spaces, including schools, to scare people. Things escalated when one costumed person in the UK was caught following students while carrying a knife. And in Israel, there was another incident that involved a clown throwing acid on school grounds. On top of that, Huggy Wuggy was also being linked to the Momo challenge in 2019. This challenge included videos that looked kid-friendly, but were edited with the photo of a supposed Japanese ghost, ordering viewers to inflict pain on themselves. And these comparisons would soon be justified, when a smaller person actually attempted to do something dangerous to become his favorite Poppy Playtime character. Throughout early 2022, Beth Buxton, a resident from the United Kingdom, noticed that her kids, who were around grade school to middle school level, were watching Huggy Wuggy content on YouTube and playing Roblox games based on the character, and their younger brother, whom we'll call James, would watch with them. And although James wasn't even old enough for grade school, Beth thought that it was okay. At this point, the Huggy Wuggy panic wasn't that public yet, so Beth thought that Poppy Playtime was something similar to Minecraft, which she considered harmless. However, she would soon be proven wrong. Sometime after her children began watching these videos, she caught James trying to exit from a high window. Fortunately, she managed to stop him, but when she asked him why he did it, he said, "He would die and come back to life, telling me that's what Huggy Wuggy does." Now panicked over what her son did, Beth reached out to Sky News to warn parents, saying that her son got to the stage where he didn't know the difference between reality and gaming. He was going into school talking about killing and guns, as if it was happening at home. Now after the incident, Beth banned Roblox and restricted her children's access to YouTube. She'd also placed locks on Windows since she claimed that James was still thinking about doing what he thought would turn him into Huggy Wuggy. Now these stories had people believing that Huggy Wuggy was telling gamers and viewers to harm themselves and others. So on April 5th, 2022, Igor finally made a statement to defend the song. In a YouTube comment, he said, "I completely understand your concern, but the articles aren't correct. Huggy Wuggy is and was always a monster in a horror game. If anyone is unfortunately led to believe otherwise, it is not true. Also, I don't have any part in the game or the character's creation. This is an unofficial song inspired by the character, and has never been in the game or part of the official story. The articles that say that this is what Huggy Wuggy sings are factually incorrect. Most importantly, I have marked this video not for kids upon upload, and it doesn't appear in the YouTube Kids app. There's no bait and switch in this video to try to mislead kids into thinking they're clicking on a video of a cute character to be surprised by an indie game monster." And backing up Igor's statement, pop culture magazine Rolling Stone investigated the YouTube Kids app and found that the term Huggy Wuggy has been blocked. This meant that wherever kids found the Free Hug song, it wasn't from Igor's original upload. The same month, Mob Entertainment CEO Zach spoke to Forbes magazine to clarify that one of the things we've read online is that Huggy Wuggy whispers creepy things into one's ear while playing. But anyone who's actually played Poppy Playtime would know that Huggy Wuggy doesn't even have a voice in Chapter 1, so it's impossible for him to have whispered anything. The Huggy Wuggy panic continued for several more months, and while Mob Entertainment denied responsibility over this controversy, the next story had years worth of evidence that pointed directly at them.
There's darker stuff though. Allegedly, the people behind the game took advantage of young up-and-coming animators, resulting in one YouTuber checking themselves into a psychiatric facility.
Before Mob Entertainment gained success through Poppy Playtime, they were known by a different name. Zach Belanger and his brother Seth were first known as Enchanted Mob, a YouTube animation channel. Starting from 2014, Enchanted Mob started with Minecraft-inspired animations, before expanding to creating songs and videos based on other games like Five Nights at Freddy's and Undertale. By 2018, the Belanger brothers channel had gained enough success that they started a new channel called Animation Sins, where they focused on criticizing animation works both by large companies like Pixar and independent creators on YouTube. They also managed other animation YouTube channels such as Examination and 3A Display. So even before Poppy Playtime was released, the Belanger brothers already had their platform and fanbase within the indie animation community, and by the time they released their hit game in October 2021, fans of their YouTube channels quickly supported them. But just 5 days after their release, Twitter user eCrocer posted this revelation. "The recent game that has been blowing up, Poppy Playtime, stole my game Venge's story." eCrocer, whose real name was Ethan, ran an animation channel around the same time as Enchanted Mob was at the height of their YouTube career. In fact, Ethan was open about how Enchanted Mob's works inspired him to create his channel. Ethan went on to release his game titled Venge on July 29th, 2020, over a year before Poppy Playtime's release. And in his controversial Twitter thread in October 2021, he explained, "The idea of exploring an abandoned building is not unique. In my game, the massive entertainment company Rodnik is at the top of the entertainment industry, when one day the entire building and everyone inside mysteriously vanishes into thin air. The foundation is uncannily similar to Poppy's. Below are 2 descriptions. They are almost identical." Below that post, Ethan showed screenshots of Poppy Playtime's and Venge's description, which used similar wording. For Venge's description, Ethan had written, "In an effort to win some money, you decide to explore a once magnificent movie studio that vanished into thin air a few years back. After a terrible fall, you find yourself trapped in the haunted, abandoned world of Rodnik Entertainment." Meanwhile, Poppy Playtime's description was, "Playtime Co. was once the king of the toy manufacturing industry, until everybody inside of the factory one day disappeared into thin air. Now, years later, you must explore the abandoned factory and uncover the truth." Now, both descriptions highlighted settings that were once magnificent or once the king of the industry before everyone vanished into thin air. The descriptions also told players that they must explore these locations. But these descriptions weren't the only things that were similar between these games. Ethan continued, "The story isn't the only thing. Additionally, a lot of the characters resemble my own, as seen below." The images showed how Huggy Wuggy looked eerily similar to some of Ethan's characters, from the design of the mouths to the movements. The idea that Huggy Wuggy was the setting's mascot before it was abandoned was also like how Ethan's Lucy the Frog was Rodnik Entertainment's mascot. Apart from what Ethan posted, players also pointed out how both games open with an old commercial from the abandoned company.
puppies as lovable as a real girl.
Both games also spawned the players at the front desk of their respective locations, which included a round desk at the center and the company mascot decorating the back wall.
Here's where I bring up something else that might raise suspicion. The staging rooms for the facilities in both games have very interesting similarities.
Now, despite these comparisons, fans of Poppy Playtime dismiss Ethan's claims, though he defended himself by opening up about his problematic history with Enchanted Mob. If a random person made Poppy, it would be a bit different. The developers are Enchanted Mob and Zamination. They've had a history of bullying me within the animation community and trying to take me down. In the post, he linked a Google document where he told his side of the story, including screenshots of how Enchanted Mob had treated him over the years. It all started on January 27, 2018, when Zach Belanger himself contacted Ethan on Discord. During this, Ethan was just a small-time animator on YouTube who was a fan of Enchanted Mob and their channels. So being contacted by someone he looked up to was a dream come true, especially when Zach complimented Ethan's work. Oddly, Zach also asked about Ethan's channel monetization, to which Ethan, who was much younger, clarified that he couldn't get money from his channel just yet. Zach then insisted on discussing something over a call, but Ethan was in the middle of a live stream. Learning this, Zach told him, "This meeting is more important than your stream. Please keep that in mind." Now ultimately, Ethan was kind of forced to end his live stream early to take Zach's call, where he was offered to join 3A Display. This would have been a great opportunity for Ethan, but one of the conditions of joining the more successful channel was that he'd have to abandon his own. This was something Ethan wasn't willing to do though, so Zach instead pressured him, saying that his smaller channel would never be successful and let him afford things like his own car. Now still, Ethan wanted to maintain his creative freedom, so he rejected the offer. Now despite this, Ethan was added to Enchanted Mob's Discord server a few weeks later. The brothers claimed that they still wanted to be friends with him, while Ethan was excited to be able to contact many of the animators he looked up to. However, just days later, Ethan got curious and searched up his YouTube name in the server's chats, and what he found shocked him. In his Google document, he recounted, "They used my little face emoji from my Discord server and put a gun emoji directly facing it. Then they laughed about it. They made fun of my broken monitor and my most recent animation." And so Ethan decided to confront Andy, who was one of the animators who posted about him. To that, Andy simply told Ethan that they were only joking around, and he even defended the jokes, saying, "I mean, I'll be honest, back when you first started making FNAF videos, we were all kinda annoyed with you." To Ethan, this didn't justify the rude comments about him though, and he soon left the Discord server and shared his experience with his own community. But Enchanted Mob wasn't done with him just yet. After he left, Enchanted Mob's Animation Since channel began posting more videos about Ethan animations, prompting more viewers to poke fun at his work. At the time, Ethan convinced himself that the criticisms were constructive, or at least made for fun, but soon he was about to start getting harassed about his work on Discord. And even received a screenshot of an Enchanted Mob message saying that he needed to quit animation. Ethan reached out to Zach in June 2018 to see what his company really thought of him, only to get this response: "I thought we were just going to stay away from each other." But Ethan wanted to clarify if Enchanted Mob had a problem with him, since he'd been getting messages from their fans. And when he kept pressing, Zach would only shrug things off and say, "That was a joke. It looks horrible without context. I don't have divine powers. There's nothing I could have done with a wave of a wand." Now ultimately, Ethan couldn't get anything out of Zach, so he ended the conversation and just accepted the hate being thrown at him by Animation Sins and their fans. However, just a couple of weeks later, a new issue tore apart Ethan's relationship with the people he used to idolize. Just about a month later, on the 2nd of July of the same year, Zach sent Ethan the link to their new video to ask what he thought about it. However, Ethan replied, "I just noticed the outro seems very familiar." Zach responded that the outro they used was a song he'd been a fan of, but Ethan questioned why they only used that in his recent video, since "I've been using this as my outro for 2 years." Zach replied, "Oh really? Must be a coincidence, hehe." But Ethan pointed out, "Surely you've seen my animations before. You told me you watched them all. Then you've heard that outro before." And with this, Zach claimed, "I don't watch outros. I click off as soon as the video is over. You must have copied us." But like what Ethan said earlier, he'd been using the song for 2 years. So he questioned, "How could I have copied you?" Now checking Ethan's videos confirmed that he'd been using the same song for this intro since late 2016. Whereas Enchanted Mob only used it in their July 2018 video. Because of this, and their video that put Ethan through online bullying, he wondered, "What are you trying to do? You literally told me what you thought of the video, knowing it would make me mad." Now Zach claimed that he wasn't trying to make him mad, nor did they know that he'd been using the song, and instead of backing down, he told Ethan,
"We like that song, it's going to be our outro from now on. You should stop using our song though. If you hadn't copied our outro song, this wouldn't have happened."
Once again, Ethan found that he wasn't being taken seriously, so he dropped the conversation soon after. But Zach would return just days later, on July 8th, to ask them,
"Which of your videos do you want them to sin next?"
For context, the videos Zach made about criticizing others' animations were nicknamed Sins, but Ethan made it clear that he wanted them to stop the animation Sins videos about him, but Zach kept pushing, even laughing about his attempt to dismiss him. Ethan also reached out to Seth about how the Sins videos harmed his channel, but he only got more excuses like,
"That's how animation Sins does it, just so you know. We sin videos that deserve it in our eyes. Our eyes is correct."
And when he was confronted about how the Enchanted Mob fans were harassing Ethan and his Discord members, Seth said,
"I don't think this part has anything to do with me anymore, but my advice is to just ignore the hate."
Surprisingly, the constant harassment over his channel wasn't even the worst thing that Enchanted Mob did to Ethan. As mentioned earlier, Enchanted Mob's main channel posted animation videos inspired by games like Five Nights at Freddy's. One character they often used from that franchise was Circus Baby, an animatronic possessed by the main villain's daughter, Elizabeth Afton. Now, many of the animations of Circus Baby had her posing and moving in a mature, almost flirting manner. Now this was a problem, because Elizabeth, who was technically in control of Circus Baby, wasn't even a decade old, so the animations were indirectly implying that the ghost of a smaller human was acting in inappropriate ways. But apart from what they thought was okay to post on their channel, Enchanted Mob made fan arts and animations of Circus Baby that weren't YouTube friendly and shared them in their private Discord server, and some of these included Ethan's own Ecroster avatar doing inappropriate things with her. What made this worse was at the time they made this art, Ethan had just started high school. Like Elizabeth, he wasn't even of age during the time Enchanted Mob made fun of his content, allowed their fans to harass him, and create images of his avatar doing things that couldn't be shown here on YouTube. In his Google document, he added,
"I didn't know how to properly deal with things. I worry that this kind of behavior is happening to more people. It is never okay to treat someone like that. I looked up to these people and they tried to get me to join their side, but I refused. Ever since then, I was treated like trash."
Soon, this became so much for Ethan that he stopped posting on YouTube starting from January 2020 and even had himself checked into a psychiatric facility. But over 6 months later, on July 18th, he announced his return, along with the release of his game Bench. But as we've discussed earlier, the issue between Ethan and Enchanted Mob and Mob Entertainment wasn't done. Ethan's accusations that Mob Entertainment plagiarized his game, along with his document showing the harassment he experienced with them, convinced people to turn away from Poppy Playtime. One Redditor even commented that he regretted supporting Poppy Playtime, saying,
"Why did this not gain traction? I can't believe I wasted money on them, believing it has potential."
Now it would take months before Mob Entertainment officially addressed the plagiarism issue. On May 3rd, 2022, over half a year after Ethan's post, Zach posted a public apology on the Mob Entertainment Twitter page. When talking about Ethan's allegations, he began by saying,
"There have been rumors that the idea for Poppy Playtime was plagiarized from Ecroster's game, Bench. This is false. The reason these rumors started is based on past drama that did not involve the large majority of Poppy Playtime's team."
He went on to discuss Ethan's feud with their animation Sins channel, and though Zach admitted that Ethan was rightfully upset about what they had done, he also claimed that they respected his wishes and deleted the Sins videos against his channels. This contradicted the screenshots Ethan had posted where Zach ignored and even laughed at his request to stop making fun of his channel though. Now Zach would also claim that they wanted to apologize for what the animation Sins had done to his channel, but
Ethan cut off communication and refused to respond to any apologies.
He went on to say that the plagiarism accusations was only because Ethan believed that they copied his game to spite him. Now 2 days later, Seth posted his own take on the issue, but this time he focused on the allegations of their team using Ethan's image, committing inappropriate acts with Circus Baby. Seth defended that,
"We were also young at the time. Some of us were even younger than him at the time. These deep fried memes are the result of a few friends having fun in Photoshop a few years ago. None of these images were made with malicious intention."
And as for their portrayal of Circus Baby, he said,
"Take a look at our content. Their character is not portrayed to be a smaller person in our videos, or in the FNAF games themselves."
Both Zach and Seth's apologies weren't received well by their fans, who thought that they were making excuses rather than admitting that what they did was wrong. Despite this, Mob Entertainment and Ethan had privately settled their differences. Ethan had even asked his followers not to attack Mob Entertainment, though the stories of plagiarism and bullying continued to be a topic of discussion within the horror gaming community. Both Ethan and Mob Entertainment continued with their projects, with Ethan even working on his game's sequel, Bench 2, too. But the people in our next story may not find it so easy to move on, since what they went through had more severe consequences.
Porque 7 niños uruguayos debieron ser internados con cortes de luego de participar de este videojuego que los habría incentivado a autolesionarse.
Earlier in this video, we talked about the Huggy Wuggy panic that had parents accusing the game character of telling their children to harm themselves and others, while Igor, who made the Free Hug song, clarified that he kept this video restricted to avoid kids watching it. He wasn't the only creator who made Huggy Wuggy content that disturbed people. Plenty of content over on YouTube and TikTok featured Huggy Wuggy singing threatening songs. And 5 months after Mob Entertainment and Igor addressed this controversy, a school in Uruguay learned how dangerous and inappropriate content could be to innocent minds. Around the first week of September 2022, a teacher, who I'll call Gabriela, found that a pencil sharpener was missing from the school supplies that her classes shared. She took note of this, but didn't pay too much attention to it at the time. However, a few days later, during the lunch break, Gabriela found that a group of 7 6th grade students had assembled the missing pencil sharpeners to access the sharp metal inside. They had used the metal to attack themselves. Within minutes, panic erupted in the school, and the staff called an ambulance. 5 of the students were given first-aid treatment, but the 2 others had received injuries so severe that they had to be sent to 2 separate hospitals in Montevideo. When investigators and school staff talked to the students about the incident, they were shocked by the motive behind what they did. The students admitted that they copied an online challenge they saw on YouTube. The video, which the media never shared, allegedly featured Huggy Wuggy instructing the viewers to use what was inside a pencil sharpener to cause pain on their skin. This reignited the Huggy Wuggy panic across Uruguay. Even more concerning was how students from other schools were also familiar with this online challenge. That same night, police were also notified that one of the students, who we'll call Carlos, had harmed himself again, not long after he was discharged from the hospital. His father, who I'll call Juan, broke a cup that night at home, and Carlos used a broken piece of the glass to create another wound. This time he had no access to screens or video games, and yet he still attacked himself. With Carlos doing it again, authorities and media outlets investigated to see if these videos were so disturbing that it was affecting the minds of their students. And soon, El Observador, which is an online news magazine, discovered that the issue went far deeper than Huggy Wuggy videos. They spoke to Carlos 2 weeks after the incident, when he still bore the scars from what he did. Though he claimed that he wasn't sure why he copied what the video told him, his father Juan shared that Carlos had actually said something concerning the morning before the incident. Carlos had told Juan that he missed his maternal grandparents and wanted to live in the INA, or the National Institute for Children and Adolescents. The institute offered help from psychologists and social workers, and with Carlos wanting to go there, this could mean that he had more personal troubles than just a Huggy Wuggy video. As it turned out, that was exactly the case. Juan later shared with the magazine that he was separated from Carlos' mother, whom their son had been living with since the separation. However, a few months before the incident happened, Juan
had to get him in Cerro Norte because the mother who lives there didn't know what to do with him. When I arrived to rescue him, the boy asked me to stay away because the prey was about to arrive.
When Juan asked the son what he meant by prey, Carlos said,
"It's the victim he was going to rob."
This meant that months before the Huggy Wuggy incident, Carlos was already struggling with his broken family and had thoughts about robbing someone. This supported the idea that psychologist Lorena Estefanel told a morning news show, Arriba Gente. She said,
"We quickly started looking at variables that weren't related to us. We started developing paranoia about video games. We lived generating narratives of helplessness. We were constantly talking about the problem, and also about the parts of the problem that do not depend on us."
Instead of finding things to blame for what happened, she urged people to treat these victims as individuals who had real problems, not just a blank slate that could be easily influenced by one video. Despite this, the INA president Pablo Abdallah believed that the story of Carlos and his friends was a confirmation that early access to technology and social networks are
in itself an advance of modernity, but at the same time entails a very serious risk.
With both mental health and early access to technology among students in mind, schools began holding programs for all grade levels to remind them about the value of life. Psychologists also argued parents to build trust with their children in order to prevent them from participating in harmful games like this one.